Good morning. This is my first vlog. My name's Andy. Work for SJ Messenger Haulage, doing brick and block. Drive a drawbar at the minute with an Atlas crane on it. We run out of a local quarry called Croft Quarry, doing concrete blocks, do tarmac, concrete blocks, tiles, bricks, marshals, block paving, curbs, slabs. So do quite a range of different materials. Get a lot of tight sites, big sites, depots, home addresses. So anywhere really. So do some interesting work. So yeah, the company's pretty good. We've got 4 depots. We've got about 50 odd lorries. So yeah, do some interesting work. So I thought I'd do some vlogs to see how we get on. Show you what I do day to day. So we're just at the Northampton now, first job, which is a depot, a Heavies depot. Usually open the gate about 6 o'clock. Just go in, chuck them on the stack, no pallets or anything like that. And then we've got 2 sites later. We've got a Bloor Homes and a Keepmoat Homes. They're both pretty decent sites. The last one's a bit tricky. They're building like up a hill, round sort of layers up a hill. It sort of goes round in all different directions. But as the building, it gets tighter and tighter. Although when I went the other day, we tipped out front on the path because you couldn't get a truck in there. So that'll be quite interesting later. So yeah, we'll probably won't film in Travis Perkins or any of the tarmac places that we load out of because they're a bit funny. But at Croft we load ourselves. And obviously we tip ourselves generally where we go. So should be quite interesting. Right, I'm just waiting for these guys to open up now, and then I'll put the camera back on when we get to Croft, and then hopefully film loading ourselves. So yeah, we'll go from there. nearly at this site at Northampton. They're building loads of houses around here, almost a new town. It's the Bloor Homes delivering for MB Kelly. So I've texted him to let him know I'm coming, hopefully get the pallets down. I did this job yesterday, I texted him Friday, told him I was coming and pallets were laid out, so I'm hoping he's done the same again. But we'll see. When we get there, it's a good tip, nice and easy, straight into site, down to the bottom, tip them off, and then back out. Cheers for that, pal. I didn't fancy backing round them bands on me blind. Sound. Top man. Thank you very much, mate. Thank you. Quickly show you what we've got tomorrow. So we've got a full load of tree curbs. Tree curb, your finding services and stuff, full load front and back. That is the end of vlog 1. We're back in the yard now. Got tree curbs on from Brett's at Barrow, Tilbury in the morning. Can't tip till 8 o'clock. I'll be down there for about 7, beat the traffic, clear my clock. And then yeah, I'll vlog tipping these. It's about 110 curbs I think there is. I think it said 110. Pick them up 3 at a time, but they want them on pallets, so it depends how big the pallets are, whether they'll have 2 or 3. And then we're down to Brett's at Cliff for a Bista. So that's going to be a long day. Early start, late finish. But yeah, Brett's don't pay the best either. They ain't the best day, but never mind, something different. I've not done tree curbs in a long time. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.